I get it. Medicare is scary. It's unnecessarily complicated, and they seem to always change the rules, and when they change them, they make less sense than before. So there's so much misinformation out there, so much clickbait, you never know who to trust. So I decided to talk about the 13 biggest mistakes people make on Medicare and actually record a video that's going to walk you through how to solve these mistakes and give you a guided tour using free tools you have available to you on the internet. And believe it or not, I wasn't struggling to come up with 13 mistakes. I was actually trying to decide which ones to cut because this was getting too long. So perhaps stay tuned for a part 2 to this article. Let's get rolling with Medicare mistake number 1. Not understanding your eligibility rules. This is another area where they made things overly complicated, and in their infinite wisdom, they did not make the rules for eligibility for Part A and Part B match. In order to research this sort of thing, I always use the Medicare and You handbook, but they don't send that to you until after you're on Medicare, and they send it to you a new copy each year. You have access to that on Medicare.gov, and they also have a lot of the resources available on that website as well. So let's head over to Medicare.gov and take a look at some of the things we have available to us and help you try and navigate the site a tiny bit. So Medicare.gov, I start at the top where we look at the basics. Getting started with Medicare, and we can scroll down and learn about all these different things, but for this one we're going to take a look at the general costs. So Medicare Part A is $0 for most people. Now, you qualify for Medicare Part A based on your work history. So if you accumulate 40 credits, which takes about 10 years to do, you've paid into the Medicare system enough to qualify for a zero-cost Medicare Part A. You can also qualify on your spouse's work history as well. And if you don't qualify for free, premium-free Part A, you can buy into it. And you can do that by paying $259 or $471 per month per person, based on how many credits you've accumulated. So this is one of the gotchas you have to be aware of. If you are eligible to buy in for Medicare Part A and you don't have credible coverage elsewhere, you then must pay a Part A penalty. Let's take a look at what the rules for Part B are. Further down on the same page, we take a look at Part B. Part B is not subjected to your work history. The real criteria for Medicare Part B is your citizenship. So U.S. citizens or people who have been in this country legally for at least 5 years are eligible to buy into Medicare Part B. Now here's where it gets confusing. Medicare Part A at no cost you can have without B. If you have to buy into Medicare Part A, you typically have to buy into Medicare Part B as well. Also, want just B without A, that's possible. So it doesn't seem like there's much rhyme to this reason. And I would definitely suggest, as you get closer to being Medicare eligible, if this is a gray area, make sure you get some solid advice, because these mistakes can be humongous. You know, if you pay a 10% penalty per year on your premium that lasts to the rest of the life, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars in late penalties. Medicare mistake number 2, treating your Medicare initial decision as an autopilot one, thinking that the government is going to make that one for you and also make the right decision for you. So, Medicare, why are they calling me? Hello?
Hello, I am from the government, and I am here to help. I've been reviewing your file, and I've noticed some discrepancies. You are not drawing Social Security, but I feel like you should be on Medicare Part B based on how much you're paying for your group plan and the quality of it versus what you can get on Medicare. Just give me your Social Security number, and I'll take care of it for you now over the phone.
No way. Obvious scam. They're not reaching out to you. They're not going to be proactive about this. The way they do determine whether your Medicare starts at age 65 is based on whether you're drawing Social Security or not. So they assume if you are drawing Social Security, you're retired and you must need Medicare. And if you're not, you must still be working on a group plan and you don't want to sign up for Medicare. But there's so many other small little factors inside of those that you need to address. But right now, let's take a look at, once you determine that once you're on Medicare, how do you actually sign up or delay it? So let's go back to Medicare.gov's website. And again, this is one of the basics. Let's get started with Medicare. And so we looked at some of the basics. Let's look at sign up. And let's say we're ready to sign up. So we can go through the rules of when, how, when coverage starts, and whatnot. Then we covered a lot of this stuff in our Medicare 101 video last month. So once you're ready to sign up, how do you do it? So if you remember some years ago, they used to send your Social Security estimates just right before your birthday each year. And in the past few years, they've actually made you apply online for a Social Security website login. And through the SSA.gov is where you will do your Medicare sign up. So once you're 64 and 9 months old, you can now sign up for your Medicare online. And just go through the Medicare website, and then you look for this box here that says apply for Medicare only. Or you can also sign up for your Medicare and your Social Security at the same time. But for this, we're just going to be doing this. And it brings you right to the Social Security website. So I understand the statements. Next. Apply online. Getting ready. So it's going to walk you through here. If you don't have an SSA.gov website, just give yourself an extra 5 or 10 minutes to enroll in that as well. So that's how you sign up for Medicare through the website. And if you feel more comfortable talking to a person, there is a 1-800 number, 1-800-772-1213, to talk to someone at Social Security and to sign up for Medicare. And if you're an in the person kind of person, you want to go talk to a real person live, you can actually go to your local Social Security office. I'd recommend, especially during COVID and office closings and whatnot, to call them and contact them first and book an appointment, and just so you know all the rules. Their rules as far as safety. So to summarize, at your 65th birthday, the government's not going to call you, and your employer most likely is not going to call you either. So they're not going to let you know that you may be eligible for lower cost, better insurance perhaps through Medicare. And unless you're a small employer, a large employer may not require you to sign up for B. Small employers, they do. So you might have to sign up for Medicare A and B, and that might negatively affect your HSAs, your group plan might have to switch. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Certainly make this decision. Spend the time analyzing this now. It could save you thousands of dollars down the road, and determine what's best for you and your family. This leads us to Medicare mistake number 3. Not understanding how HSAs and Medicare do not mix. Anyone who's been following me or talked to me, you hear me screaming from the mountaintops about how much I love HSA accounts. I can't think of any other investment that your money goes in pre-tax, meaning a deduction when you save it. It grows tax-free, and if it comes out used for medical expenses, it comes out tax-free as well. So HSAs, if you have one available to you, are wonderful options, and it's a great way to start saving for your retirement health care tax-free if you have enough time to get some money into this type of vehicle. So Medicare becomes primary when you turn 65. What that means is the deductible on the Medicare Part A is not high enough to be considered a high deductible health plan. So once you're on Medicare Part A, you can no longer contribute to your HSA plan. And to overcomplicate things yet again, when you sign up for Medicare Part A, if it's not at age 65, they typically backdate it by 6 months, or age 65, whichever's later. So you have to make sure that your contributions to your HSA are allowed. So any given year, if you're on an HSA for part of the year, they prorate those contributions. So in 2021, the contribution limit is $3,600 per person, or $7,200 for a family. So if you're on Medicare for half the year and your HSA plan for the other half of the year, your contribution would be cut in half. So don't forget, if you work for a small company, 20 or less employees, they typically, almost always, require you to be on a plan that has Medicare as primary, so 65 and older option. So if you're on an HSA plan for a small company, you have to be mindful of making the right choices. Medicare mistake number 4, not signing up for Medicare Part B when you were supposed to. We could also call this getting bitten by a cobra, because that is the most common way I've seen people who maybe retire and their company's paying for their cobra for, let's say, 18 months. And then when the cobra ends, not realizing that Medicare had not been considered that primary all along, and therefore having to sign up for Medicare Part B when that ends. But since it wasn't primary, you don't have that special election to sign up for Medicare. So let's paint the worst case scenarios. What if this happens in April? And all of a sudden on April 15th, you have to sign up for Medicare. You're no longer in your initial sign up period, and you are not during the Medicare open enrollment season, where you can actually sign up for Medicare Part B benefits on between January and February each year. So if you sign up for Medicare Part B in January, the benefits will start that July. So from April of this year to January plus July, you're talking 15 months that you could be potentially without any Medicare Part B coverage. So the 10% penalty is substantial, but even greater than that is being without medical coverage when you're 66 years old and being exposed for 15 months. So this is not just one of the most common mistakes I've seen. It could be one of the most costly mistakes. This is a mistake large enough that could completely derail your retirement and potentially bankrupt you by not having the proper coverage. I have articles on this topic, and for the free resource I'm going to refer you to is actually my own website. So let's go to thrivewealthstrategies.com and take a look at my blog. So I'm building up a library of helpful resources. So on this blog, let's just type in the word Cobra. So I have an article with a case study talking about this and giving you the rules about what is considered primary and whatnot. But just as a rule of thumb, once you turn 65, Medicare is going to be primary to almost everyone, unless you work for a large company of over 20 people. So, it has to be a current company that you or your spouse are working for this to become primary. So if it's part of a retirement benefit or a severance package or something that's a non-traditional medical option, none of these qualify to stay primary to Medicare. If you have something where you are required to have Medicare primary, the other one is not considered credible. So you'll be subjected to those late enrollment penalties and not be given that special election that you would normally get by leaving an employer coverage or being new to Medicare Part B during these election periods. So beware, know your rights and your responsibilities for Medicare. Medicare mistake number 5, not reviewing your plan each year. When you first sign up for Medicare, the amount of work you put into picking this plan, the amount of people you talk to, you never want to have to repeat that work again. So you put yourself on autopilot. You just keep on renewing the same plan year after year. I have met recently a person who was on Medicare Supplement Plan J. That hasn't been sold in 12 years. She's overpaying by a ridiculous amount. But the idea, though, is she bought it. She's happy with it. She's never had a reason to look for something different. But remember, each year things change. There's new plans on the market. There might be new prescriptions that you're taking. One of your prescription drugs might be now generic. So the plan you picked might not necessarily be the right plan. So let's go back to Medicare.gov and take a look at the Plan Finder tool, and I'll walk you through it. First time through it can be a little bit cumbersome, but what we're going to do is take a look at health and drug plans. We're past the basics now, and we're going to compare them. So once you get to this page, I would suggest making a login, create an account. This way they're going to save your information. So each year when you come back, you're going to have all the stuff there. You might have to make a few little changes. But I'm going to continue without logging in because I do this for people each year, and we're going to not want to save their information. So we can research all the different types of plans. I'm going to just take a look at the prescription drug plans available in my zip code. Continue. And then it's going to ask you, are you getting any extra help through some of these programs? I'm going to say we do not. And they do have some of the drugs I put in for the last person I was helping this morning. So let's actually remove those drugs and start from scratch. So let's add a drug. One of the most common drugs is Lipitor. Let's add it. So this pops up and it says Lipitor has a lower cost generic version. You can either add that or add the name brand instead. So let's just add that, okay? And then 40 milligrams is the most common, but you can switch that. And then you can add the quantity and how often you take it. Add the drug to the list. Now we can keep on adding drug after drug. There's no limit of how many we can put in. So just for this example, I'm gonna put one of them in. So I'm done adding drugs. And then what pharmacy do I go to? I always like to put in the mail order and then add a couple, maybe a couple of the big chain pharmacies as well and see where it is. Okay. So those are the ones that we're adding. So what it's going to do now is it's going to take a look at the options. So there are 42 Medicare Advantage plans and how many? And 21 Medicare prescription drug plans available in my zip code. So it's going to sort this by whatever we want. I'm going to say lowest drug and premium cost. So we're not endorsing any of these companies, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that how to research it. So this one in particular has a star rating of 3.5 stars. Shows us what the premium is, shows us what the deductible is, and it shows one of our 2 selected retail pharmacies are in network. So we have to make sure we go to a network pharmacy to get the best discounts. And then from here, we can either compare some drug plans together, look at the plan details, and you can even actually enroll through the Medicare website on these plans. So viewing the drugs and their costs for this particular plan, it shows me that one's a preferred pharmacy and one is not, and mail order is preferred as well. And then for the drug coverage, it shows me what the drug will cost at the different ones. So if you go to Walgreens at a network, you're going to be paying quite a bit. And then estimated total drug cost for the year. And this is a great way to analyze things. And then, if we go to our preferred pharmacy on this plan, looks like the drug is going to cost a $1 copay. If you do mail order, it's $3 every quarter. So that's how you research the plans on Medicare.gov's website. Do it each year. Save yourself a profile. Save yourself some time. So each year, log into Medicare.gov, put your prescriptions in there, take a look at it, and make sure all your prescriptions are covered. And if it offers you a generic version that you're not taking, and that's what's causing you to get super expensive, talk to your pharmacist, talk to your doctor, see if that's something that you can switch to. And if you're having trouble navigating this, let me know. And like I showed you, it takes me 5 minutes or less to get through this, so I would be happy to take a look at this for you. Medicare mistake number 6. Assuming that you and your spouse have to be on the same Medicare plan. Up to this point, you're most likely on a group plan that covered your entire family, or a family plan if you're self-employed. Now that you're going to be on Medicare, you have to be mindful of how that's going to affect your spouse. And that's the only reason the spouse plan is important to be considered, is if you leave that group plan before your spouse is 65, will there be something to bridge that gap? But once you're both on Medicare, that decision becomes completely independent. You should base it on your own personalized health profile. Now, sometimes they match. Sometimes families have the same list of doctors. But based on the list of your doctors, your medications, your health profile, one person might be a supplement, one person might be an Advantage plan, or both might be Advantage people, but different companies. There is a couple reasons I can think of that you would want to be on the same plan. One, it is not to save money because there's no discounts, but what it would do is maybe add a little layer of convenience. Some people, some families, there's one person that takes the lead on this type of thing, and it might be easier for them to become an expert on just one type of Medicare plan instead of really questioning, hey, was that dental on this plan or that plan? No, not having been expert in 2 plans. And the other convenience too, that some different companies have special relationships for preferred pharmacies, and if you're on different companies, you might find yourself doing trips to save a few dollars at 2 different pharmacies. So if the convenience is worth the extra little savings by the preferred pharmacies, that's something to keep in mind as well. But I would definitely suggest taking a look at your benefits independently on an annual basis, and some of the tools would be on Medicare.gov, the prescription drug finder we mentioned before. Run those through each year, and you'll see that very rarely both spouses will be in the same plan. Medicare mistake number 7, not signing up for a prescription drug plan when you are first eligible. So I understand a lot of people, they don't take prescriptions, and especially early in retirement at age 65, you may not take any prescriptions. So why would you sign up for a plan that you don't need? The reason is because you eventually, most likely, are going to need some prescriptions down the road. And when you do end up needing to sign up, 2 factors come into play. Number 1, it might not be during an annual enrollment period, so you might not be eligible to sign up until January the following year. And number 2, there's a late enrollment penalty, and it's progressive, and it lasts a lifetime if you trigger it. So in this example, Mrs. Martinez went 31 months without prescription drug coverage. Now the limit is 63 days. So after you go through that 63 days, they charge you 1% per month of the national base beneficiary premium. So the national base right now is $33.06. So 31 months is $10.33 per month. That is added to her plan's monthly premium. So instead of paying, let's say, $33 for her prescription drug plan, she'll pay $43. And that's going less than 3 years. I've seen many examples of people who turned 65 and they didn't need prescriptions until they were age 70 or 73. That might be 100 months. So your monthly penalty might be $33 per month then, or larger if the base premium goes up. So my advice would be, even if you don't need any prescription drugs right now, some of the cheaper plans in the market, are less than $20, $15, $20 perhaps. You might just sign up for the lowest cost just as a placeholder. And if you do end up having a surgery or something comes up, you need a prescription drug throughout the year, great, you have coverage. It might not pay for itself in the early years, but it certainly will in the later years. Medicare mistake number 8. Not knowing when to ask for extra help. So, as we covered before, the income on the high side can lead to surcharges, but on the income on the lower end of the spectrum, you're entitled to some pretty amazing benefits in most states. So, on the federal level, they do the high income. On the state level, that's who takes care of the people with the limited income. So some of the programs you might have heard of are Medicare Savings Program, low-income subsidies, and the extra help plans. So in order to find out what's available in your state, I would recommend going right to shiphelp.org. It's a website set up specifically for this reason to help people research and figure out what is available in the local area. So let's go look at go right to the source, and you can read some articles there, but let's take a look at what they have in my area. So in the state of Massachusetts, they're helped by a company, by volunteers that work for the Shine Company, serving health insurance needs for everyone. So you can get the 1-800 number, their website for the mass.gov section of it to get more resources. So I would say, if you know somebody who's living on a fixed income, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone with no assets or quote unquote poor. There's people that are living on limited income, like a pension, a small pension, and a Social Security, that would qualify for these. Perhaps getting their Medicare Part B premiums reduced. Perhaps waiving some of the late enrollment penalties that might be have accumulated. Some states even offer pharmaceutical assistance programs. So it behooves you, if you have an elderly relative who's living on limited income, or if you feel like in retirement you're going to be in the point where you are living on less than a couple $1,000s a month, perhaps call this number, go to these websites, and see if there's anything that you're entitled to. Medicare mistake number 9, going out of network on your Medicare Advantage plan. So in the Medicare 101 last month, we went through the different types of Medicare Advantage plans. Just as a reminder, Medicare Advantage type plans, HMOs, are network plans, and you have to go to a doctor in the network to have coverage. So when I used to do the seminar, I used to carry around the thick book, and I'd say, here is your Medicare Advantage network. You go to a doctor inside this book, you have coverage. If you go outside that book, you're responsible for the entire bill. So network is extremely important when you're picking a Medicare Advantage HMO plan. Now, some doctors, they might not participate in an HMO network. And that's why a lot of people are gravitating towards a PPO for their Medicare Advantage plans. A PPO, you still get the same book, and you still get to get the nice reductions for doctors in that book. But if you have to go to a doctor outside that book, you may end up having a higher copay than a network doctor, perhaps. So you still have to be careful about networks with the PPOs, but they give you a little bit of the safety net. So as plan years change, as they roll over, you're going to be automatically re-enrolled in the same plan. So it behooves you to take a look at the networks, making sure there's no changes in it. See if any of your doctors, the typical doctor's office would write you a letter saying, we notice we're no longer contracted with the insurance that you have, because they have all that on file. But it does make sense to reevaluate your plan each year and see if some of these newer plans out there have all your doctors, or if they don't, if they're a PPO. And enough of your doctors are covered as a network. Medicare mistake number 10, not understanding the guaranteed issue rules. So there's actually 4 states out there, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, and Maine, that allow you to switch from one plan to another without showing any type of insurability or answering any insurance questions. There may be a 30 or 60 day waiting period for some services, but in reality, you can make a switch during annual election period from one side of the page to the other with no ramifications. Now, in 31 other states, they might have specific rules where there's certain criteria where you could switch back and forth. And there's 15 states plus DC where you actually have federal minimum standards of guaranteed issue, which means at the very least, you have to be able to get onto these plans when you're first eligible for Medicare Part B, and then 6 months afterwards. Beyond that, if you try and switch plans from one supplement to another in many states, they're going to have to qualify you medically to make sure that this is something that they want to give you, and it's the insurance company's choice. So be mindful of this. You may end up needing some major coverage down the road. You might have a family history of chronic illnesses, and you might want to pay a little bit more for your Medicare supplement in your early years, knowing that eventually you are going to need some extra coverage. So as a consideration to do, don't think about that now, but also think about some of the rules in your state and whether or not you think you may need a supplement down the road. Medicare mistake number 11. So the first 10 of them I use my hands to talk, and this one I'm just pushing through. So mistake number 11 is not coordinating your Medicare decision with your accountant and your financial planner. These numbers are important, and there's actually fairly substantial surcharges if you go over just by $1. So for individuals, $88,000, and married couples, $176,000 is where the income level is, where you start actually having some surcharges. So I'll throw the chart up on the screen for you guys to review. But keep in mind, as these numbers go up, it doesn't just affect your B, but also your Part D. And these numbers are for married couples, each person. So, this can be pretty substantial. And the engine that drives all this is modified adjusted gross income, MAGI. You'll see that all over the place. There's things that we can do to impact it on the positive and the negative side. So the decisions we make, if we're close to these thresholds, are not that difficult. We just have to be aware of them. So without coordinating this with your other professionals, you could actually be throwing away quite a bit of money. So some of the techniques that we do as part of financial planning is converting traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs, filling up your tax buckets, making sure that you take advantage of some tax arbitrage opportunities. But when you're doing that, you have to understand if it pushes you into 1, 2, or 3 levels higher, that's a substantial cost that you have to calculate when you're weighing these decisions. Taking substantial withdrawals from retirement accounts, tax-deferred accounts, rather than more tax-preferred accounts. Not tax loss harvesting. That's another way you could actually lose some opportunities. And also, if you have a highly appreciated non-retirement account, as you rebalance it to perhaps get you back to more of a neutral weighting or recalibrate your risk, you're going to be selling some things at appreciation that you're going to maybe trigger some capital gains and push you into another level. So just a reminder, try to stay below these limits. Try to coordinate your Roth conversions within these parameters, Redraw money from your Roth IRA perhaps to pay for that big family trip somewhere instead of taking it out of a 401k. Maybe using some cash or some principal of another investment. And if you do have highly appreciated assets in a non-retirement account, consider using that as your part of your portfolio that's not being rebalanced, that is growing, and only make strategic withdrawals from there, and then rebalance your retirement accounts where you can rebalance inside there without causing any tax impact, and use that to balance it out. So having a plan how you're going to manage your assets has a huge impact on your Medicare. So mistake number 11 is not coordinating these. Medicare mistake number 12, not appealing the high income surcharge. I just had a gentleman today contact me asking me if you can get your money back after the fact. What happens when you end up retiring? Typically, you sign up for Medicare and perhaps your income might be reduced going forward. So if you have an event that makes your income artificially high, understand that they are looking at numbers from potentially 2 years ago. They use your tax return. So let's go to the Social Security website and I can show you directly what they're saying on this. So if you have high income, gives you the rules. And how they determine if you have pay a higher premium, it's based on your modified adjusted gross income, and it's taken from your tax return. Now, you might not have filed a tax return yet for last season, so it might even be your tax return from 2 years ago. If you've retired or had another life event that potentially is drawing your income down, or it's lower going forward, perhaps there's no one-time event like a large capital gain or selling a business, an income property, a death, a divorce. I mean, the list goes on, but there are reasons why your income might be lower. And just simply by understanding the rules and knowing to appeal and knowing where to go can save you thousands and thousands of dollars. So let's take a look right on the website. We can click on there. It brings up the form needed to fill in. And it asks you some basic information that you should have at your fingertips. You check some boxes and tell what the event was, the date of the event, what the reduction in the income might be, what you expect it to be going forward, and then documentation. It tells you what kind of documentations they want to see. And you sign it, and then longer than the form are the details and the instructions how to fill it in. So it gives you the different steps. It shows you, which step to choose, which life-changing event to choose, and also says if you do choose these events, it shows you what evidence they need to see to substantiate them. So if you feel like your income is artificially higher and it's not going to be that high going forward, it's a fairly simple process to appeal this. And I would definitely suggest, if you're on the cusp, take the time to not just evaluate what you're paying, but also have them redetermine it if you feel like you're being overcharged. Congratulations! You made it through an entire Medicare video. And your prize? The knowledge you've gained. The reason why Medicare is so confusing and it can be difficult to navigate is all the different rules. Unfortunately, many retirees make mistakes with their coverage that they might not even realize are costly until it's too late. Hopefully this video and associated article have helped you learn about the common pitfalls of Medicare. Don't let these mistakes happen to you. You're welcome to subscribe to my YouTube, my social media, my newsletter, and gain this knowledge on your own. Research things through Medicare.gov and do this. You can sign up for Medicare. I know you can. But if you want to partner in this, if you want someone to help you figure out how your healthcare options fit into your retirement plan, contact us for a free consultation. We can walk you through the steps one by one. We'll never leave you in the dark again. Just ask us anything. We understand that no question is too small because every detail matters when making these decisions. The opinions voiced in the material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual.